Hello, Internet. I think we're live. I think we're good to go. I think it's happening. But I'm double checking. But I think you are live with me now with a MiSTer stream. That's right, we're doing it. We are doing it. I never remember to change the settings. So it says River City Girls, but that's not what we're doing. We're not doing River City Girls. We're doing some MiSTer stuff. Mike's going to be here in a little bit. Hopefully soon, so I'm not talking to myself this whole time, but it's happening. So I was without my MiSTer for a while. The micro USB port snapped off the board, which of course was not good. And because of that I had to get it fixed, and I didn't, so I was out of commission from like July until December, basically. My MiSTer was out of action. Because I was just lazy about getting it fixed. But now I've gotten it fixed, and there's a bunch of new cores since I had it out of commission. So now I'm back and I'm doing some stuff with these new to me cores. I just heard something.
Man, I love cores.
Hey, there's Mr. Mike Ailes.
Sorry,
Oops.
I turned off my Phantom power by mistake.
It's all good. I just used my magic by mistake.
That's probably also not good.
Yeah, but I only had one vial. So right now, just to get something going, I put in the Sega Classics Arcade 5-in-1 disc for the Sega CD to show off the Sega CD core just a little bit. And the reason I'm playing
CD core, playing games that you could otherwise play
on a Genesis. That's right. Well, actually, the reason that I picked Golden Axe out of the 5 games on this is because this version of Golden Axe actually uses Red Book audio files of the arcade soundtrack.
Oh, nice.
Instead of
Next best thing.
the a lot of games in the PlayStation era also did the same thing, actually. Really? I can't get over far enough to get that vial? That's dumb.
That first Mega Man Anniversary Collection on PS2 did something along those lines, and so did the PlayStation 1 port of Final Fantasy 4/2, which was the good call because all the other audio sounded like crap, but they got the music right, and that's all you really need.
Right. Yeah, rather than try to get the PlayStation to replicate the Super Nintendo sound chip, which actually feels like it shouldn't have been that hard since it was also designed by Ken Kutaragi, but yeah, they just recorded from a Super NES the music and used it in those ports, which, yeah. So I'm not going to play this for very long. This is literally just like, I was waiting for you to get here, and the title screen has a solid color so I could make sure my stream screen was all set up properly.
Okay.
Because it's when I'm adjusting the thing in OBS, like, since you can actually crop the screen now in OBS, like,
Right.
it's like if I want to know where the color ends and make sure I'm not cropping out, you know,
the good stuff.
the good stuff. So,
Well, so then
That
welcome
was-
to the MiSTer Stream
yeah.
3.0 or whatever this one is.
I mean, I've done a bunch of them, especially if you count Patreon streams. So I don't even know what we're calling this one, but
MiSTer Stream 2020.
Yeah, MiSTer Stream 2020. I should
Dawn
be
of the
playing
Decade.
Super Baseball 2020 for the Neo Geo, but I actually think my ROMs aren't formatted correctly for Neo Geo on this. I haven't been able to get any of them working properly, and I think they're not rolled up. No, I'm not sure if they're rolled right or whatever, so I'm not stressing about it. Especially since like I have a Neo Geo with a flash cart. I'm not really super worried about that. But I only pulled a handful of Sega CD games because, as we discussed via text, the archive.org redump of the Sega CD is like gigantic. It's, what is it?
Absurdly complete.
It's how many gigs did we figure? 200 some gigs?
187 or something like that.
100, yeah. So even though I technically could fit that, I think on my memory card, it would be like that would be it.
Most of it.
It would be. I would say I have a 254, and I'm not sure how much is on there now. As we also discussed, the Amiga set.
Yeah, the Amiga library is really
very big.
I don't understand how there are 15 gigs worth of Amiga things.
But there are. So what's the first thing you did? So tell me about, I mean, you told me a bit, I guess, but let's talk a little bit about your experience getting your MiSTer and setting it up.
Yeah, I'm a MiSTer now.
Yeah.
So I started off, I just had the board, and I got just a 64 gigabyte SD card because it was like $9 or something like that, and I just thought, well, that's too cheap to not get some extra storage. So
Yeah.
I downloaded the MiSTer thing. There's a the installer basically formats your card for you and
Yes.
then puts it into multiple partitions, and like it's
Mhm.
super duper easy to run on Windows 10 anyway.
Yeah.
Just got that from the GitHub, and once I had that, I also downloaded some Smoke Monster pack that you had suggested for me, and dropped that onto the card.
Yeah, there's a
then-
base MiSTer pack that Smoke Monster has on archive.org that has basically the updater scripts, and I think all of the shaders, and so let's actually talk about that for a second. I'm gonna pause this.
Well, what I'll say
All those
is,
people keep
I
screaming.
believe it had the updater scripts, but it did not have the shaders, right? So
So you had to run the updater script to get. So there's these filters that you can see here if you're watching the stream, and interpolation sharp did not used to exist. That's a relatively recent shader. I think I used Gaussian Sharp 7 was the ones that I used to use. But interpolation sharp is sort of the one of choice. And now also there's a setting in the video settings of the core MiSTer settings that you have to edit in the text file on your computer. But I have it set so that it does integer scaling only on my setup. So integer scaling with the interpolation sharp. You know, you can, and there's a bunch of scan lines options that work really well with integer scaling because it doesn't, but I don't like fake scan lines as we've discussed before. So I don't know. Actually, maybe since this is integer scaling, I don't need the interpolation. I probably could go back to the
my
Gaussian
experience
Sharp
so far
7.
is that
Let's see how
the
that
built-in
looks, actually.
interpolator is also quite good. Just the kind of the scale filter standard, whatever it is,
Right.
looks generally pretty good. I have not been putting on any filter of any kind when playing stuff like NES games because I find that they already look really good. But I'm interested in trying the one you were using, the Sharp. No, what was it called?
Interpolation sharp.
Yeah, interpolation sharp, because apparently it's good for minimizing kind of pixel shimmer.
Right. If you use uneven
even-
scaling, it will. Right. That's why I think I don't actually need it now that I've switched to integer scaling. I think it will. Interpolation generally smooths over any pixel shimmer or warping that is a result of.
Even on my Super NT, I have not managed to find a set of settings that seems to completely eliminate it. Like if there's a slow scrolling background in Mario World or something, I definitely see some.
Even with interpolation turned on?
I believe it's on by default.
I'm not. I don't remember. You'd have to double check. I know that you can turn it on. Like I usually only have it on for horizontal because so few games scroll. Well,
Vertically.
partially because I use integer scaling on the vertical axis, but also because not that many games scroll vertically. And so,
maybe the problem is that I sometimes run at 4.5.
right. I'm gonna show off the dragon, and then I'm gonna switch games. But Tyrus Flare's Death Dragon is just too sweet.
Hey, you did it. You got all the potions.
Yep, I got all the potions. There's the Death Dragon. That's how you beat bosses the easy way.
So just to summarize, I got my card. I ran the little formatting script from GitHub. I dumped the Smoke Monster pack onto it. I edited 1 or 2 values in the INI file. Then I fired up the MiSTer and I plugged in the Ethernet and I ran the updater script, and that did a lot. Like that brought down all kinds of cool cores and things. And so from that point on, it was just put games on, and it's been working.
And hey, Smoke Monster's in the chat. He says, hey.
Smoke Monster. Yeah, I was just saying to Joe, got my MiSTer up and running, and in part thanks to your scripts, and it's been going really well. I've even managed to get my Xbox One controller going through the Bluetooth dongle is in the little USB hub that is passive and plugs into the tiny USB port on the MiSTer. Mm-hmm. I didn't think you were supposed to be able to do Bluetooth controllers through a passive hub, but it's working super good for me.
Someone on the Smoke Monster Discord today was actually just talking about like using, a lot of people plug a powered USB hub that is powered by like external like AC power into the passive hub and then plug it into the wall, and then whatever powered stuff they need they run through there. But it's cool that the Bluetooth dongle is working for you through the passive hub. Yeah,
I'm not taxing the USB hub too heavily because I just have that, and I think I have the receiver for my keyboard plugged in sometimes, but yeah, it's really nice at this point. Like, I just fire it up and sync up my Xbox One controller, and I can do kind of whatever.
Yeah, I usually use my arcade stick, but I didn't feel like unfurling it because I had my Street Fighter 4 Ken fight pad handy, which I use most of the time, and then I always have I got a USB keyboard with my PC that I have now that I don't use because I have a wireless keyboard that actually uses my PC, so I use this with the MiSTer, and I always have it by my side because a lot of times it's easier navigating the menus and stuff to have a keyboard handy. So that's how I roll generally. But
I went downstairs because I had a spare keyboard and brought it upstairs and was able to plug it in when I realized it was a PS2 keyboard.
Nice.
I think maybe I could throw that thing away at this point.
Yeah, you never know. That's the kind of thing though, that one day you decide you're gonna like try to get like an old 486 running or something, and then you'll be like, where was that PS2 keyboard that I had?
I spent enough hours of my life getting 46s running. I don't want to go back to those days.
Fair enough. All right, that's enough of this grainy animated movie. I'm just going to play some KO Flying amazing. Squadron. I know it is, but you know.
Yeah, this game is really cool.
If you like Q-em-ups, let me tell you.
Well, I will say I find it kind of hard. I don't know. I played maybe like 4 rounds and I still haven't finished the first level. I didn't turn the lives up though.
Oh, I see. You're shaming me for turning the lives up? Is that it? I get it.
Depends on how you do.
We'll find out.
I will say with Genesis games and Sega CD games, I get a little unsure how to map the buttons on an Xbox One controller, because the problem with the Genesis controller is that the 3 buttons are in a line, so depending on the developer, sometimes your jump will be the C or sometimes it'll be the B.
Yep.
And so that doesn't map very well to an Xbox One controller. There's no one configuration that works all the time. So you can remap them on an individual basis, and it's not that hard to just go and swap them out in the MiSTer menu when you want to, but it leads to a bit of confusion.
Yeah, that's why so I have this, as I showed, and so this is a fight pad with the the Saturn layout, the Genesis Saturn style layout. And then my arcade stick has 2 rows of 4 buttons, so I usually just go the first 3 ABC, and then the top row, the first 3 XYZ for Genesis. And that seems to work out pretty well. So, missing out on some spectacular voice acting right here.
I was showing this to my girlfriend and trying to explain to her that, no, this is why people paid money for the Sega CD. You wanted this. This was your reward for spending all this money.
I made a video about WWF Rage in the Cage a couple years ago, and tried to explain that as well. It's not a very good game, but you have to understand that at the time, having this black and white full motion video of Razor Ramon doing the Razor's Edge in a tiny letterboxed and pillar boxed window was super awesome.
That you can watch anytime you want.
That's right. So
kids these days, they just don't know how good they got it.
They have no idea.
But the aesthetic in this game is so good. These adorable little raccoon guys. I mean, Tanukis, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And everything looks kind of like it's a bit of a stage play. Like
Yeah.
the water splashes when the boats show up, they look like they're kind of painted plywood or something.
Right. So I had a chance to buy a sealed copy of this for $300 at the Midwest Gaming Classic about, I'd say 12 years ago, give or take. And at the time,
12 years ago.
yeah, I was like, I was pretty tempted then because like that's a pretty good price for a brand new copy, and I would have cracked it open and played it. And there, I wonder now, like if you could even find a sealed copy of this game now, how much it would go for.
Dang.
Since it's generally considered to be, you know, one of the most desirable, you know, kind of all the Sega CD, you know.
I'm assuming they didn't make a lot of copies of the English version of this game.
They did not. They didn't make a lot of copies of, I think, a lot of games that came out for this system.
There were a lot more games for the system than I thought there were.
Yeah, we texted about that a little bit. Yeah, there's almost 300 games for the Sega CD.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like, I knew one guy in high school who had a Sega CD.
I had one back in the day. And I had a friend who had one, actually. There were multiple people that including myself, that I knew that had a Sega CD. And mine just stopped working, and then I sold all my games, including Snatcher and, you know, whatever else. Panic, Snatcher. Because the system broke down, and, like, I didn't... It was getting to the point where it wasn't really being supported anymore, and so there was no thought process of, like, oh, well, we'll just, like, get it fixed.
Right.
And deal with that.
Jaguar.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, you know, that was kind of it. But, like, I fortunately decided that I wanted to reacquire Snatcher in time that when I got my copy of Snatcher that I have now, it was only $80.
Timed that okay.
So, and it also came with a stack of, like, super common games. Like, it was like clearly like someone found their kid's old game stash in their attic or something and was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just getting rid of these, because it was like a Snatcher with the original case but no manual, and then like Super Battleship and High Impact Football and NBA Live 94. You know, yeah, right. It was not. It was.
Get yourself some dragons. Stop shooting for a second, man. Just stop shooting.
Just, you know what, Mike? Don't tell me what to do.
So for me, this whole era of consoles, like I had a Super Nintendo, then I didn't buy a new console until like 1999 or 2000, at which point I finally got an N64. So this kind of middle era of like Sega CD, 32X, Jaguar, 3DO, all that stuff were things that I only ever saw like if a friend rented one or if I went to a store and they had a bunch of them on demo. I used to love going to Montreal to Sam the Record Man, and they'd go upstairs to the top floor where they'd have the Jaguar hooked up, and or I could play like a level of Panzer Dragoon or something. So for me, the MiSTer's been really cool. Like this Sega CD core is super fun, and I don't know what the status is on other systems from that era, but like I don't know if Jaguar is doable, but it would be pretty cool to be able to get in and mess around with Jaguar games without having to actually invest in
Somebody is Smoke Monster says the story in this game is complex. Somebody is currently working on a PS1 core, so I feel like Jaguar should be doable. The one I'm actually really stoked about that Smoke Monster just revealed in his New Year's Countdown, which if anybody is watching this and hasn't watched that yet, you should definitely go check out Smoke Monster's New Year's Countdown, because they give you a really good sense of what's out there. But in his Ms. Pac-Man Stravaganza video, he revealed that that Risha has basically completed an Atari 7800 core that should be getting a public release soon. And getting an Atari 7800 to work on a modern setup is like moving a mountain. I mean, that core is going to be so great to have. I'm getting smoked here, Mike, just like you. I'm also talking while playing the game, though.
Smoke Monster says that there is a complete FPGA Jaguar core, but it hasn't been ported yet. So,
oh, nice. I feel like somebody is working on that. Somebody somewhere is working on porting that core to MiSTer.
It's definitely one of the things that finally made me bite on the MiSTer was just the amount of development happening right now, just the speed with which things are changing, and there's just new stuff to try all the time. Pretty fun to be such an active scene. And also, I got a little bit fed up with trying to play old Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. Well, I have the Super NT, which works very well, but
yeah,
I don't know, for some reason emulators on computers, I cannot find one that just does what I want it to do. They just don't feel right. Even stuff like Heigen, which is supposed to be super duper accurate, I always feel like I'm kind of approximating the experience, and I don't get that with the MiSTer from what I've played.
Yeah, I mean, also people talk about, like, especially when I got it, people were like, oh, you have to be a hobbyist to, like, because there's a lot of tinkering that you have to do. And, like, there was a certain amount of tinkering that I had to do, but as soon as the updater scripts came out, which was not that long after I got mine, like, Smoke Monster wrote the first updater script, like, it's just so easy now.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not very hard, but it's not plug and play for sure.
It's not plug and play, but it's like I feel like it's less of a pain than, you know, like, say, setting up a RetroPie to do, like, the exact things that you want it to do. And the Raspberry Pi, and granted, like, you know, you pay a fifth as much, yeah, for a RetroPie.
Depending on how many boards
for Raspberry Pi. Right. So what boards did you get? Because I only have. Yikes.
I don't feel so bad about not finishing this level now.
You know, I only have the. I have the 32 meg RAM because at the time that was the only one that existed. The 32 meg RAM board, and that's it. That's the only extra board that I have. But I think, did you get the I/O board or no?
No, so I did get a RAM board. I knew that I was going to get one eventually, and I decided to go all the way and get the 128 when I saw that a lot of my favorite Neo Geo games need the 128, and it wasn't that much more expensive to get the big RAM board at this point. You know, maybe another $30 or something like that, but with shipping and whatnot, I was like, I'd rather just pay for it once and get everything. And I don't know for sure, but I suspect that, you know, if PlayStation Core gets released, it probably will need that RAM. So,
I'm sure. I'm sure that would be the case.
So I figured I'd go all the way on that. But aside from that, I just picked up. So I was ordering from MiSTer add-ons, who
Pork Chop Express, good dude.
Yeah. I was able to put that. He was able to put that together pretty fast, actually. Like, this was during the Christmas rush and everything, and I think I got my RAM board within, like, I don't know, 10 days of ordering it in, like, late December.
Nice.
And I got the just the fan board, like, so I don't have the I/O board. I have just the kind of dead fan board that goes in its place. I wanted to keep it from overheating. And I don't have a USB hub right now. I might get one eventually, but so far I'm kind of making do with what I got. They're a little pricey, and, you know, the DE10 is not cheap either, so.
It's not, but to what you get out of it, you know.
Yeah, no, I don't regret it at all. Like, it's super competent, does all sorts of cool stuff, but, you know, it was like buying another analog system, basically.
Right.
By the time I added the RAM board, and I have not received it yet, but I ordered a 3D printed case. It might be a little while before.
Yeah, I just have, like, a 3D printed top and bottom plate, basically.
Like a sandwich?
Yeah, it's like, well, you can see that photograph of the MiSTer on the stream is a photograph of my personal MiSTer. So it looks like that.
Oh, so your top plate is the fan plate. That's the same kind of thing that I have. So it's only partially protected. Yeah, you don't have kids living where you do, although you do have dogs, so I don't know if that's a worry. But
I have singular dog now, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I mean, when I'm not playing it, I put it in the static bag and put it in a cabinet, so because it's so small, so that's not really a concern.
I just touch my PC, which is right next to it, before I handle it every time. Hope that will de-static me. Got a nice metal PC case sitting on the shelf next to it.
Right.
But
so, like, what was the first thing you played, Mike, when you?
I think the very first. I didn't have the RAM board when I first set it up, so I think the first thing that I played was probably Sonic the Hedgehog, because when I booted up the Genesis core, it just auto-loaded Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, right. There's a bunch of boot ROMs. Like, just for the sake of CD, you have to set, if you want it to be a little easier, you have to set one of the BIOSes to be the boot ROM.
I think it does
and
that.
It will.
Yeah, I think mine's already set up that way. The one thing, so what I got into when I finally started choosing to play with games, was I started poking around with super graphics stuff because I was like, oh,
all 5 of them.
Complete library of isn't it closer to 8?
No, it's
like
there's 5. There's, well, I guess you could. There's 1 or 2 PC Engine games that are enhanced if you play them on a super graphics.
Okay.
And then there is I think there's like a caravan or tournament version of Darius, but I think that's it. So I think maybe you could argue that there's 7 perhaps, but basically 5. Because Darius is just the same as the PC, as if you play it on a PC Engine, but it's like it runs a little smoother. There's like less slowdown or something, you know. So.
Well, there's 8 that I have in this list here, but 2 of them are Darius, and
right.
Also one of them is an alternate version of Aldine's, I think. So
there you go. Right.
Yeah, but so I played a bit of 1941, and that's interesting because when I was in university, we had an arcade cabinet in the department for a while that was 19XX, and I actually really liked that game.
Is that the War Against Destiny?
I can't remember the subtitle, but I do remember getting kind of good at it, and it wasn't that hard, so I was able to get sometimes 5 or 6 stages in on 1 credit, which was nice because I was broke. And 1941 gives me a lot of those vibes. It's definitely, you know, my experience with the series is 19XX, and then also the NES versions of 41 and 42.
Smoke Monster says Flappy Bird super graphics. There's someone, if someone hasn't made that, I'm sure that they're going to.
Anyway, so 1941 seems cool. Is Aldine's? I think I played some Aldines. It's like another side-scrolling space shooter, which it looks really neat, but it's also really slow.
They're almost all. Oh, this game is for use in Japan only. We're breaking the rules, Mike.
But I'm guessing, I just saw your list. You don't seem to have Madu King Grandzord.
I don't know what happened to my Super Graphics set. It was something went weird with it. And to just make sure it was still working, I just threw a couple of games on, because at least when I grabbed the someone had a like fill. So Smoke Monsters ROM packs, you know, standard. It just is just a script that organizes your existing ROM collection. But someone at some point had posted them to like a Mega account or Google Drive or something, and I grabbed the set. And at the time I grabbed it, it did not include any of the Super Graphics games, so I had to hunt all of those down myself. And that was right after like a lot of ROM, like that was right after was it Cool ROM like pulled everything because Love ROMs got sued into oblivion by Nintendo. So it was actually like a little hard to find all the Super Graphics games at the time, and I think I still have them somewhere, but they weren't on my memory card when I rebooted this thing for the first time in however many months, and I was like, well, I'll figure it out later. I just want to make sure that I
Well, you must be real sad to have lost that copy of Madu King Grandzord, because Jesus Christ, that game is a piece of work.
Isn't that the... which one is that?
It's like this really awful side-scrolling... Sort of, you look like you're playing kind of like Mazinger Z kind of robot, and you start on the right side and you scroll left, and it controls like a Master System platformer from like 1986 or something. It's really bad.
Because of course it does.
So this is definitely not as flashy as 19XX. Actually,
no.
I was just looking up a list of CPS2 games, and 19XX is CPS2, so
yeah.
I'm hopeful that someday we get a good CPS2 core. I can play some 19XX again.
Yeah. Which one is... So there's a Loop Master, there's a War Against Destiny. I can't remember which of the 19X games are what the subtitles all are. 1943 is the Battle of Midway.
It is the War Against Destiny.
XX is the War Against Destiny?
Yeah.
1941 Counterattack, 1944 The Loop Master, 19XX The War Against Destiny. I think. But don't hold me to that. This is also the only home port that this game got. There are no other home ports of this. There's an emulation of it on the PS2, Xbox. Capcom Classics Volume 2, I think it is. I actually did I think a full playthrough of it on a Patreon stream earlier this year, but
Smoke Monster invoked Strikers 1945. Is there any relationship between these games and that?
those are Psycho games that are like spiritual successors, but those might have been published in the arcade by Capcom. I don't remember because they were like Psycho got very buddy-buddy with Capcom for a minute there. I don't think that one. I think that one was before that though, because actually there's a version of Strikers 1945 on the Neo Geo, and I feel like Capcom probably wouldn't have gone for that at the time because they were pretty hot competitors with SNK in that moment. So that one I don't think is, but there's a whole bunch of Strikers games that are yes, exactly. Hey everybody, it's Eric.
Hi,
Hey,
Eric.
Happy New Year, Eric.
Yeah, 2020. Woo. Yeah.
Impressed so far.
By the year? What did it do to you?
I
I mean, you went to see what it was supposed to be a pretty good movie though already. So if the movie was as good as it's supposed to be, then I feel like, you know, probably you've seen 100% good movies so far this year. That's got to be worth something. Was it pretty good?
yeah,
What movie was it?
Uncut Gems.
Oh, I have heard that's good.
We're going to see it on Saturday, so
It's kind of a rough watch.
Oh, yeah?
It was extremely tense and anxious,
Oh.
partially because of the script, partially because Adam Sandler is channeling like Happy Gilmore, like super intense psycho, but serious, and also partially because of the way that it is, the song that's just the editing. It's very good.
how's Kevin Garnett playing himself?
He's great. He has a moment near the end of the movie.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it because, like I said, we've already got tickets to go see it on Saturday afternoon. So
It's good.
good.
Have you seen any of the Safdie brothers' other movies?
I'm trying, what else did they do?
I don't know. Some other original stuff.
Then maybe.
Daddy Longlegs, Good Time, Heaven Knows What, Lenny Cook, Daddy Longlegs.
I have not seen any
You
of
made
those.
that one twice?
Did I say that one twice?
Yeah.
I know, the pleasure of being robbed. I don't think I've seen it.
I don't think I've seen any of those. No.
I heard Good Time was supposed to be good. That's that it had Robert Pattinson in it from a couple years ago, and people were like, "Oh shit, Robert Pattinson can he's like lost his mind."
Oh yeah, I think I do remember hearing about that, but I didn't see
Real
it either.
life?
Just like not like in a bad way, but just like Robert Pattinson isn't the guy that we thought he was going to be. That kind of thing. He's not just a like smolderingly good-looking guy.
Right. There's a performer in there.
Right. Or at
He's-
least there's someone who has more ambition than just
To be the smoldering, good-looking guy from the Twilight movies, right? Well, he's Batman, so
yeah.
I heard The Lighthouse was good. I didn't see that yet, but I heard that was very good. Speaking of Robert Pattinson,
And what he was in something last year too that was supposed to be good, but I can't remember what it was.
that wasn't The Lighthouse.
Well, sorry, 20.
Oh.
Better than you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that either.
Nope, me neither. But I have heard that.
So Eric, are we convincing you to get on the MiSTer bus yet, or are you not? You're not there yet.
I just
Let him tell you about this Raspberry Pi he's got.
I have a $1,500 PC that does everything. So, and most of my I don't sit in front of a TV to play games, so there's just not a lot of.
Yeah, that's not entirely unreasonable.
And I'm
No.
always interested. I really enjoy like hearing about what's going on with it, but it just doesn't fit into my life in a way that makes sense.
You just don't spend enough time trying to pull off the Alcatraz escape in Super Metroid.
Right. I mean, I don't play a lot of old games, really. Honestly.
Speaking of old games, we didn't have...
good new games.
Right, there's a lot of good new games.
Fucking
So we didn't do a Genesis or Genesis isn't tonight because you were at a movie, but I just...
I didn't think anybody was going to be around for that.
So just today, the Hidden Palace found... Well, I don't know if they probably didn't find it today, but they just dumped the beta of the attempted and canceled Super Star Wars port for the Genesis.
Oh no.
So is that... I saw that Genesis Akira thing.
Yes, that too.
Wow,
Yep.
Is that out and about?
Yes, it is. No, it's out and about. The Hidden Palace also dumped that, actually. Those were seemingly their two big...
What kind of game did they make out of Akira?
The first stage is like a super scalar, like, motorcycle thing, I want to say. Kind of, but, you know...
Harrier kind of...
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, you're on the motorcycle, so you can't fly, but yeah, I mean,
when you say super scalar, you mean behind the back?
Right, yeah. Like, yeah, right.
Sprites getting bigger.
Right, Super Thunderblade, Space Harrier, Afterburner, Outrun. But I think it turns into a side-scrolling thing. But yeah, that was also the Hidden Palace, I believe, that dropped that.
It'd be fun if there was like a Katamari level later on.
No.
Frankly, it doesn't look very good, but...
No, it doesn't.
It's one of those things where it's important. It's great that it's out there.
Right, it exists, and there is some context around that about, like, why does it exist? Right.
You know, it's weird that there's not a lot of Akira games given that.
I believe there's a Famicom version that was released in Japan, but it's like a kind of like a...
All of the other anime that sort of stood the test of time and the way that has
Right. No, I think you're mostly right about that.
Dragon Ball Z.
Right, but those keep getting new shows and stuff, right? Like, there's always a new Gundam show. There's always a new Dragon Ball show. Yeah, Smoke Monster says that, Eric, you're not loud enough, and I don't think I can make you louder without making Mike, like, way louder.
I can talk into the mic more.
There you
That
go.
would help.
That's
Well,
probably better,
that's
yeah.
a big difference right there.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's better.
I know. I keep knocking this microphone over, and sometimes I don't think it is working as well as maybe it should be.
It sounds fun when you talk into it.
Okay.
Speak into the microphone, Squid Brain.
So a MiSTer thing that maybe Eric will care about is that I've been getting back into Astro Boy Omega Factor.
So good.
That's a great game.
So good.
Yeah.
It's one of you two that sent it to me.
I did.
Is it you?
It was me.
One of
I've loved it.
Winners for that, for sure.
Yeah, I've known about it since it was new. Like, I've been playing it off and on for years. But it's really cool to have it on a TV. Like, but so Joe, you're saying you don't use a lot of scalars, but I find that with like the GBA, the resolution is low enough that it's just, and that's a really bright, colorful game. I feel like I need something to kind of...
So there's a gamma, Smoke Monster can explain it since he's in the chat. There's like a gamma correction thing. Let me see if I can
you can
actually
dim
find
the
it.
games because some of them are...
So this core doesn't have it. I only have one Game Boy Advance ROM, but let's check it out. Why not?
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater?
It is not Tony Hawk. There is not a version.
Smoke Monster said good time is awesome, so maybe I'll have to check that out at some point.
Well, there absolutely is a version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for GBA. Isn't
Nope.
there?
Tony Hawk 2 was the first one.
Oh, sorry, 2. You know what I meant. Don't.
Look, man, there's no Phoenix downhill levels or any of that bullshit, so it's not.
Anyway, yeah, I could just turn the gamma down, but the resolution's low enough that I prefer to have something to soften it a little bit on, 55-inch television. So, I've tried the LCD Mosaic one, which is neat, but maybe a little bit too much for me. So mostly I just been putting some scan lines on.
Okay.
Just funny because it never looked like that on a Game Boy Advance, but it looks good.
So because I'm not using because I'm using integer scaling, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the Gaussian Sharp 7. But then, yeah, we can gamma correct. So because this game, or this demo, I should say, is like pretty over. Like if you, okay, let's undo this actually. Turn that off. Okay, so take the menu away. Like just looking at the title screen, look at how washed out that looks.
That black.
Also, I appreciate Smoke Monster appreciating my 1941 skills. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you recognizing it. But then, yeah, if you turn the gamma correction on and you go to like poly 2. Let's do 2.6, right? Now it looks like a regular video game.
Yeah.
Because it's not depending on this idea of like if I had other games like what's the one that Castlevania Circle of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the colors for the original GBA screen.
Yeah, and it's just like, but now that we've corrected the gamma, you know, see a little bit more here. Also, this is a super impressive demo, by the way. Like that, this is I would have been very curious to see what a full game of this would have ended up looking like.
But that's why I never agreed with people who thought the best way to play Game Boy Advance games was on a DS, because the DS screen is so much brighter that I found it made everything just hyper saturated.
I think the best way to play Game Boy Advance games is on a Game Boy player with the Game Boy interface and a upscaler solution of some sort. But this is definitely like that's an expensive setup. Like I had a viewer who was kind enough to send me a PAL GameCube. That I could use to, because the PAL GameCubes have SCART, RGB output natively. So because I had a viewer in the UK who offered, he's like, I have an extra one, you can just have it. I was like, okay. But without that, even though there are solutions now that you don't have to get like the official, you know, cables or whatever from Nintendo that cost a gazillion dollars because they don't make them anymore. But just the same.
What's happening with that door, Joe?
Yeah, you just
what are you doing to that door?
This is a very, very early demo. It's a proof of concept, basically. And
hey, I've got another really great way to play Game Boy Advance games. It's the MiSTer.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, now that there's the MiSTer, you don't need to shell out all that for a GameCube and a Game Boy player. And like I said, this is the only GBA game that I have on my MiSTer right now, so this is it. But yeah, I mean, it looks really good. It's just really, and this one, I think there's a couple games that require the 100 and whatever RAM.
Literally one.
Is it just one? Okay.
It's one. It needs 33.5 megabytes of RAM. I can't remember which one it is.
I think
the list at some point.
Yeah, Risha told me on Smoke Monster's Discord. She said there were a handful, and I just took her word for it. I was like, okay, I'm not worried about it because I was thinking about if I wanted to upgrade or not, and I think eventually I'll have to because, like you said, probably that like PS1 core probably will need that, but for now I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal.
If I can find that list that I found earlier. It might just be somewhere on the GitHub.
Let's do, you know what, actually, let's do a little arcade
Eric,
action.
I will say that playing Astro Boy has highlighted the one thing that I don't love about the Xbox One controller, which overall I think is amazing, but I don't love the buttons, the face buttons, and there's just like, I don't know if it's too much travel on them or what, but I feel like it takes a bit too much force, and when you're playing a really precise action game, I find that they're not your best bet.
All right.
But I still use it because I love the just convenience of being wireless.
Having a controller that's pretty good at everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, it's amazing for 3D. It's actually pretty good for most 2D games because the D-pad is
especially modern ones where
they don't expect you to have like a super great D-pad.
Yeah.
No, it's great for almost everything, but for a couple of like classic games that really frantic.
Its biggest weakness is probably like shooters and stuff, like old shooters and games like that, where it's a super amount of precision is really nice, but
Oh, I don't know if you guys can hear the sound, but actually, this is one of the cores that is weird with the HDMI sound when it goes through my capture card. So I actually can't hear the really good Burger Time music right now.
I haven't played this one very much so far, so I'm not actually familiar with the really good Burger Time music. When I was a kid, this game stressed me out, so I never wanted to play it.
Did you have nightmares of being chased by anthropomorphic hot dogs and eggs after you played it, or?
I don't remember if I had any nightmares, but it was one of those games I didn't like the idea of just being kind of hunted down constantly by angry food items.
That's legit. Ooh, oh man, I was about to get a whole bunch of bonus points for that.
Hey man, you gotta salt the sausage.
Smoke Monster says,
"Oh, go ahead, Mike."
I think you can switch back to DDR and it'll support 100% too, but you get better performance from SD-RAM or something. I don't actually know what that's referring to.
That's probably talking about the GBA, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of the cores that support, like there's some cores that, like the PC Engine one has optional support for the extra RAM board where you can switch it to DDR RAM and it runs smoother, but the onboard RAM is enough.
Okay.
There we go. There's some big bonus points.
Jeff Gersman on the record as a huge Burger Time supporter.
Yes, absolutely. And he's right, because Burger Time is awesome.
Cool.
I should give it a shot.
I mean, it gets hard, like, pretty fast.
It's hard pretty much right off the bat.
Oof.
Yeah. MiSTer helped me realize that I'm very bad at Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong is also a very hard game. Donkey Kong, arcade Donkey Kong is, yeah. I remember when I saw the King of Kong, like, they talked about how, like, the average Donkey Kong game lasts, like, 30 seconds or something. Like, it's ridiculous. I played Donkey Kong Jr. at our company Christmas party, because we went to this arcade bar not far from our office. And, yeah, I was playing with a coworker, and, like, I cleared the first stage. He couldn't even do that. And I was just like, man, this game is really hard.
Look, Monster wants to know if the food items eat Peter Pepper when he dies. That's dark, man.
I mean,
know what the food items do to Peter Pepper when he dies.
Yeah, right. Right.
He wishes they'd eat him.
Yeah, right. They eat him like there's this fish in Japan that is served alive. Like they prepare it while it's like they pull it out of the water and then they fillet it in whatever way,
Is it fish
and
in
it's
Japan?
served.
Fish in Japan.
Uh-huh.
Fish in Japan.
But it's served live, and I was like, why would you want to eat that? And my host mother, when I was there, was like, well, because you know it's fresh. I'm like, well, I guess you're not wrong, but like still, I don't think I need that in my life. Let's play some Donkey Kong since we're talking about it.
Who's Dagon?
Who huh?
Smoke Monster asked if we'd seen Dagon.
That's a pretty good horror movie.
I have not.
I'm pretty sure. Didn't we talk about it on an action cast at one point?
Maybe.
I may have recommended it.
But if we did, I never got around to watching it. Speaking of that, though, Ip Man 4 came out this year, and apparently it was pretty good. So, I didn't see it. But I watched like an end-of-year wrap-up from someone who was like, oh yeah, like...
I don't want to be too nitpicky, but you're cutting off the bottom of the screen. You're playing a Tate game.
Oh, on the...
It's a Stuart Gordon movie, Joe.
Oh, okay. That probably is pretty good, then.
It's pretty good. It's one of his better ones, I would say. It's no Reanimator or whatever, but...
Right.
It's no Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which apparently he wrote.
I was going to say, he directed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Yeah, he just wrote it.
It's triple barrel jump.
Thank you.
Reanimator, From Beyond, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Dagon, Castle
Freak. Castle Freak is actually surprising. I'd never seen Castle Freak until Joe Bob showed it on Shudder earlier this year, and I was like, this is actually like surprisingly good.
Castle Freak?
Yeah.
That's all right. I don't know.
I mean, it's a full moon
Man,
movie, so I was
those-
expecting like
Yeah.
absolute trash, and I was like, oh no, this is
It's
like
got Jeffrey Combs in it. It's watchable.
right. Anything with Jeffrey Combs is at least watchable.
Yeah.
I just listened to the Flophouse podcast where it gets name checked about 1 episode out of 4.
Does it really?
Oh right, because that's where what's his face famously got fucked up.
His ding dong gets ripped off.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie, but I know that.
That's true. That does happen.
Or actually, he rips it off himself, I think.
I believe that's correct. Yes. So I don't remember if I can switch this. I assume that I can switch this to the Japanese ROM set, which lets you play all 4 of the levels at once instead of...
What do you mean at once?
So in the American version of Donkey Kong, you play level 1 and then level 4, and then level 1 and 2, and then level 4, and then level 1, 2, 3, and 4. But in the Japanese version, you play 1, 2, 3, and 4, like,
That sounds better.
no matter what. Yeah.
I did make it far enough to get back to level 1 one time, but if I'm not on my A game, I don't even make it to the top.
You're not able to send Donkey Kong spiraling down to his not quite death.
Head bonkiness.
His head. Yes, send Donkey Kong to his head bonkiness.
Good day, Cart.
Howdy.
Hey, how's the wallaby you brought back from Australia, Kurt?
It's adjusting pretty well. It
Okay,
had
that's
some
good.
Pretty bad jet lag at first.
Yeah. How about you? How was your jet lag?
My jet lag is fine.
Okay. Well, how long have you been back?
I got back on the 20th.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all sorts of time.
Yeah. Well, I got back on the 20th, and then 2 days later, I jumped in the car and went to my parents for a week. So.
Which is in what, Blacksburg or something?
North Carolina.
Oh, they live in North Carolina. That's right. Yeah.
Same time zone, though.
Yes. Yes.
So now, when I drive home to Wisconsin, I go into the Eastern time zone and back out of it, like in the course of driving there.
Yeah, which state is it? It's
in Kentucky that happens.
I have
Indiana's really
lived
bad with time zones though too.
Yeah. I have
Indiana
lived
sucks.
that time change. I think
time
you're right.
zones.
I think it was I dipped into Kentucky really briefly one evening, and it was like, all right, the time's different here.
Yep.
Indiana's the worst.
Indiana's bad because there's,
Like,
Tennessee also
part of
crosses
this is
time
here.
zones, but it's really wide. Indiana, like, it seems very arbitrary which counties are on one time and which counties are not.
Indianapolis just sets itself apart.
Right.
I'm here to tell you that Indiana is not a state that is big enough to have more than one time zone.
Yes,
Indiana
you're
is
correct.
not
And
much of a
yet,
state to begin with. Yeah.
because a bunch of people work in Chicago who live in, like, western Indiana, so they decided to carve out part of it and make it part
is
of
that
the
it?
central time zone.
Yeah.
It's all very Malkovich.
There's a really decent bathroom in Elkhart in a Target in Elkhart. If you ever eat a
It
fucking
was decent.
And then, yeah, I ruined it, but it was okay.
It hasn't recovered since.
Yeah,
It's been 6 years, but it's almost 7 years, but it hasn't.
7 years ago. But
Hey, is this gonna save your initials? Like,
I don't think so, but I typed them in anyways.
It's what you do.
That's right. It's what you do.
It's also what's for dinner.
the only NES game that I've sunk any appreciable time into on my MiSTer so far, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
okay,
It's
I like that game.
every
the first half
time
of that game is
every
really good.
time I try, I'm just like, it just. I've been trying for like 30 years, and I bounce off of it every
I
single
wish that they would make a
time.
real sequel to that game that was actually
Learn from its mistakes.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first half is legitimately fun, and then it gets really unforgiving and hard in the second half.
Yeah, there's like crazy difficulty spikes. Like
Yeah, and setbacks, like depending on where you are, it can be a real pain to get back to the dungeon you were in if you lose all your
yeah,
lives.
it's a real slog to get across the map.
So would you like Would you like them to do
And also,
a
like-
sequel, or would you like them to do like a reimagining?
I would like a Link's Awakening style remake of
I would like
Zelda
a Zero
2.
Mission.
Yeah, or a Zero Mission, right? Yeah.
Either or would be fine. Either those
Zelda
things.
2.0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Just ask you whether you think there's
oh sure, for sure. It's just got great. It's just fun.
It's just when you die, it is needlessly repetitive. Oh dear, I mapped these buttons backwards, and that is gonna have to get fixed right now.
That sounds like this game is very loud.
It is. I adjusted it.
Speaking of these-
Sorry, I adjusted it.
Coming out of the finger, playing this much harder. At least I actually managed to finish Zelda 2 one time.
I had bronchitis once when I was a kid, and I had missed like 2 weeks of school, and that was what I did for most of that time. But there's a lot of bullshit in that game. Also, like the dungeons with the invisible walls that are
Yeah,
secret
or
passages that you can't see through, so you're just like running around and falling. And
they definitely supposed that you had Nintendo Power.
yeah.
I mean, it's also a small-ish game, so like it is nonsense, but I could see how they could expect you to just figure it out by trial and error eventually.
Yeah,
It's not that
I mean,
big.
that era.
it's pretty big for
There's
an
a lot
NES
of
game.
stuff where that's the way it is, right? There's just a
Yeah,
bunch of
absolutely.
horse shit in it because you had like one game for months and you just bang your head against it until you got through something.
It took me 8 years to finish Pool of Radiance because the final boss was behind the secret wall.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't. It's just for me, the fact that Death Mountain is so close to the beginning, and that when you fail, you get sent. Like, once you have the hammer, which you don't until after Death Mountain, and you can get around having to go through Death Mountain, it's not that bad. But just that's front loaded, and if you die, you get sent all the way back to the palace where Zelda's sleeping. Like, I don't have the patience for it. I really don't.
I honestly love that part, but I recognize that it's really frustrating, but it's such a rush when you make it through there.
I just wish it was a little bit further into the game, or that you could continue from places.
It would be nice if you didn't have to go through like the cave to get back there. It's a little bit of a slog. I honestly think it's worse in the second half once you have to use the raft and cross over to the other continent or what have you. And then sometimes, there's like the maze that you have to navigate through with all the secret pits, and then there's the castle after that, and if you lose your lives in that palace, it's such a pain to get back there.
Right. It's just I don't know. It's a game that I like in theory, but not in practice, I guess, is essentially. And if they fixed if they did a remake that fixed a couple of those things, where it didn't send you back, and
It's like Battletoads. I can have a fun 20 minutes playing Battletoads if I stop when it gets too hard, and I can have a fun 2 hours playing Zelda 2 before it gets too hard.
So when I was home for Christmas, I went to Up Down with my friends Greg and V in Milwaukee, and we played through the arcade version of Battletoads, which is actually quite fun, and doesn't have a turbo tunnel. So, that helps.
Even if it does, you can just put more quarters in, probably.
You could. But I'm not going to take that torch. That doesn't seem like a thing I want. I'm playing exceptionally shittily at G&G right now. Whoa.
Are there any of the games in this series that you think you're actually like pretty good at? 'Cause I don't think I get anywhere in most of them.
I mean, I'm not at a point where I can do like a 1 credit clear on Ghouls and Ghosts or anything, but I can beat it, I'm pretty good at Ghouls and Ghosts, and I'm pretty good at Super. Whoa, that's weird. Never seen that before. Yeah, that's weird.
MiSTer played hours of this on easy just to get 5 minutes of footage for his video. You wanted something from a later level or what?
Whoa. That's weird. speaking of Smoke Monster, we got he's in these credits here
Nice.
for.
I beat Maximo. Does that count?
No. But let's I guess I'm gonna play for a little bit longer, but I think we're getting to the point where we're just about wrapped up. But since Kurt and Eric didn't show up at the beginning, as we hang out for a little longer, I'm actually gonna switch to Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Graphics.
Supposedly, Anthony is supposed to come and play.
Yeah, allegedly.
Legends handed down from our grandparents.
Supposedly, he's supposed to come and play Remnant from the Ashes with Kurt and I, but
Oh.
Believe it when
who
I see it.
knows? Yeah.
The shadow.
The shadow knows what lurks in the hearts of men. So we'll do a little Ghouls and Ghosts here. I got turned into a duck immediately because I'm concentrating on talking and not playing. But that's fine.
Classy duck.
I
You wearing a
recovered.
bow tie?
Yes, the duck is wearing a bow tie.
That's a much better run cycle.
What?
I mean, that's
Than
than the arcade one.
well, it's a different game.
I know,
So-
but the arcade game got a real doofy looking run cycle.
It does. Now I'm just playing like absolute garbage apparently tonight. That's what I'm doing.
Is your cat all right, Kurt?
I was wondering if that was a child or like what.
No, it's the stripy cat.
Getting garbage weapon drops too,
It's
man.
very sad when her buddy's not around.
She does, yeah.
I don't have to do it this way.
Is this equipped?
I think one part of the reason that I do want to end the stream somewhat soon though is I think I'm actually gonna finish Control tonight.
Oh, nice.
Where's fucking Joe?
I was fucking in Wisconsin for 10 days. Like I'm at least gonna do the ashtray maze.
You've been at almost. You've been
That's
like
like the
within an
best bet.
hour of finishing that game for like a month.
I know. Imagine how frustrated I am.
I mean, if you're not
No, I am. That's the problem. I'm really into it and I want to finish it.
That's the worst.
I don't want you to feel I don't want you to play it out of a sense of obligation or whatever. But
No, I really like. It's definitely going to be in my. I mean, probably top 5, maybe top 3 games for 2019, and it is extremely aggravating that I have not been able to find the time to just sit down and play the last whatever hour of it. But I'm hoping to actually do that tonight. There is a treasure chest around here somewhere, and I guess I'm just not going to worry about it because
What do you need a treasure chest for? You already got the gold armor.
I don't have the dagger, Mike.
I suppose. Do you have the double jump in this game?
Nope, only a Super NES version has a double jump.
What?
Oh, I could take that spinning disc though. Oh shit! And of course, that's when I lose my armor. Yeah, I really like Control a lot, and it has been really frustrating to not be able to just find the time to sit down and finish it. I think part of it is that, like, because you guys have told me that I'm so close to the end, I want to make sure I have enough time to just finish it
Right.
and play the rest of it in a sitting, and not get interrupted and be like, oh, now I'm 15 minutes from the ending. Like,
Yeah.
I have to come back and do it again.
An
Like,
hour left, I would say.
yeah, probably a couple hours.
Like, give yourself like a 2-hour
You haven't
block.
done the maze yet. Yeah, I would say 2 hours at least.
okay, well.
Well,
Then maybe I'll play
not
some
necessarily at
tonight
least,
to see
but
how far I get and
a lot to 2
finish
hours
it
is
tomorrow.
what I'm saying, yeah.
I have not been doing any of the side stuff, if that matters at all. Like, I'm not gonna deviate from at this point from the critical path and like go run around and do a bunch of extra.
Doesn't matter a
junk.
lot. I mean, you have less abilities, but you probably have everything you need. Not
Yeah,
abilities. You have less,
presumably.
less of the tech tree
Less-
filled out.
Right.
I can't fly into things to kill them yet.
That's not essential. It's fun.
But Yeah, it looks fun from I've seen clips of other
That was
people
one
doing
of
it.
the. Actually, I thought that was one of the least useful.
Oh, really?
Because it takes your whole bar
Yeah.
Oh, it does?
when you use it.
Yeah, but Eric, guess what? It's
I mean, it
fun.
looks fucking cool. And you don't have to have a full bar to use it. It just uses up what.
Oh, it uses up what's left.
Yeah. So
Is there
It's also
anything...
fun for moving around.
Are there
It is
any...
fun.
Are there any other boss fights that are as obnoxious as the Mushroom Dragon? Or is that like...
I don't
The
think
plant
so,
thing?
no.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
Because I feel like that's the one that everybody was
Tomasi
complaining about.
Round
If you're not-
2?
No.
Yeah, the second Tomasi.
Yeah, that one.
But
is brutal.
but it's not... You don't have to do it?
No, it's not.
It's not a critical path one. No.
I feel like the first time fighting him was like not very difficult at all, actually. Is he the...
No, the
when
second
you...
one is worse.
He's the one where you first have gotten your power to throw stuff at people?
Yeah.
In that generator
Pleasure and
room.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think
isn't
he was
in
very
the
difficult at
mail
all.
the First time, isn't he in the mailroom the first time? you fight
Yes,
him?
yes, he's in the mailroom the first time you fight
Is
him.
it the mailroom? There's like a kind of
The
a
second
generator.
time you fight him, he's near the turntable.
Yes. Good job.
Thanks.
Thanks. I assume that was directed at me, but...
Yep.
Okay.
Gold armor. Jumped over the chest. Landed
Landed on the guillotine, yeah.
on the guillotine. Lost everything.
Anyway, you gotta finish that game because we're definitely
This
gonna
is-
talk about it when we do Game of the Year stuff.
Yes, for sure.
This is, and I'm just saying, this is the way I play Ghouls and Ghosts too. So. Alright,
Well,
I'm doing good. Fuck.
Actually, being a duck here is not that bad, because you can walk under these
Seriously.
things. Okay.
Possible that being a duck is not bad all the time. You don't hear them complain about it a lot.
I mean, you can't attack as the duck. At least as the old man, you can attack. You can't attack when you're a duck. I don't have the dagger, but I'm actually just going to take
Duck.
I'm going to take the lance to the boss, because I don't... I've got the gold armor.
I'm shocked.
Me too.
The legends are true.
Maybe. I don't know if that's really Anthony.
Of Zelda or
It could be anyone.
It could be anyone. Actually, it sounds like it's probably Alex.
Lance.
Hey, you made it to a boss.
Yeah, and I wrecked him, too.
How are your anime children doing, Alex?
Just fine.
Do you guys think that Anthony doesn't realize that Alex's voice isn't higher than his?
Like Mickey Mouse.
it's not higher, but it's more nasally.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Just fine.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Alex,
convinced.
When did you get here?
Yeah, Alex.
Shields are for the weak.
Alex now becomes goofy.
That was like Goofy and Mickey at
He's
the
always
same
been
time.
Goofy.
Ah.
Oh, I was going for that.
Got him.
All right. Well, I'm gonna play until I get to a continue screen, and then I think we're gonna call the stream for tonight. Unless you guys want to fire it back up for whatever you're playing with Anthony. But I'm gonna end it as soon as I have to expend a continue. So we'll see.
It's that little guy in the corner.
That's a little guy in the corner. How'd you know his name?
That's me in the corner.
That's me in the spotlight.
Exactly.
That's as far as we're going with that. That's fine, actually. Let's.
Yeah, yeah. I literally was just waffling, going, "Do we go all the way? No, that's good enough.
That's adequate.
No need
The
to beat
finish
that
line.
dead horse any further."
Yeah, the finish line's in view. That's good. That's far.
Everybody was picking up what we were laying down. That's all we needed.
Yeah,
What a shitty bridge, man. That's a shitty bridge.
it really is. It's not a good bridge.
You're not looking at.
Wait, are we talking about the REM song, or are we talking about the thing that I was walking on?
It's got a just a fine bridge.
I don't like the mandolin. I'm just, like the song is fine, but it has too much mandolin.
Mandolin is not an instrument that wants to be played.
I guess.
Don't get me wrong, it sounds good.
Sometimes.
It can.
Games.
Nice.
Oof.
Although, it might not be a mandolin.
That's true. It might not be.
Might be a
What would
synthesizer
it
made
be?
to sound like a
It's
mandolin.
supposed to sound like a mandolin, though.
Like a
Sounds an awful lot like a mandolin.
Like a balalaika, or
You think?
Could be a balalaika. Sure,
I'm
why
pretty
not?
sure it's supposed to be a mandolin.
All right, and on that note, thanks everybody for watching this week. We'll be back
It's
next
not a
week
zither,
with
I know
something.
Santa's going over my favorite albums of
Good
the last
night.
10 years, and Cahalan, Morrison, and Eli West, Our Lady of the Tall Trees. That's got some good mandolin.
All right. Now that
There
the
you
people
go.
know that, now I'm ending the stream.
Was that one that you did for an album of the week?
spoiler